Today I'm going to show you how to take a standard 3.5-inch construction column and turn it into a beautiful 6x6 finished column. Okay, so we started with, the goal was to have the box be 6 inches by 6 inches. So two of the sides are going to be exactly 6 inches. And so I ripped those previously out of a 1x8 piece of AZAC. I cut them to length first. And then the other pieces are cut out of a 1x5 piece of AZAC. There are two other sides of our square box, and those are cut at 4.5. The reason we got 4.5 is because we subtract 3/4 of an inch times 2.5 inches from the 6 is 4.5. So we're going to make a perfect square of 6x6. And then with the leftovers of that, we have some scrap here that we're going to flush out our 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch column with. And so the two sides are going to get a 1/2 inch, and I'll explain this as we're putting it on all around. And we want to sort of flush out that 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch column with some of this strapping so it becomes a nice firm surface to nail our box on the outside of. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build 3 sides of our box in the garage, and then we're going to carry it out and install it. And we're going to glue it up and shoot it in the garage, and we'll do that next. Okay, to build the box, I'm actually doing on edge. You could 45 it, but I've chosen to do it on edge. It saves a little bit of time, it's a little bit less fussy, but with the glue, with the AZAC glue, it will still make a very strong bond, and I'll shoot some nails into it as well. So now I'm just going to build 3 sides of the box, carry it out to the column, and then install the rest of it. Sides of our column box. We're going to carry this out and install it after we flush out the column to be the same size. So our posts are, what we're starting with is 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And again, our final box wants to be 6 inches by 6 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to flush this out by a 1/2 inch on either side to make 4.5 inches. We want the front side of our box, or our column box, to be flush with the top here, so it looks like a nice smooth transition, and so no water gets in there as well. And we're going to come down here, so the face of the box is going to be directly on the column, and this part here is going to be out about 1 inch. So we're going to have to flush this out about 1 inch, and each side by about a 1/2 inch. So I used some strips of the AZAC left over from ripping them down to do that job, and so I'm going to attach those right now. Have this flushed out so it's all 4.5 inches all the way around. So go to the back, it's going to be flush with the back, and on each side we flushed out a 1/2 inch to make it 4.5, and on the front side is an inch spacer to make it 4.5. So when the box goes on, it's going to be nice and tight. So we have our 3-sided box that we built out in the garage, and it's going to be 6 inches by 6 inches when it's done, and now I'm going to put it on the column. Okay, we slip the 3-sided box over the column, and we're ready for the last part of the square. So now you see our spacer pieces here and the role they're going to play. So this makes it exactly 4.5 inches on the inside, and 3/4 of an inch on either side, make 1.5 inches. So this is going to be exactly 6 inches. And now what I do before I put the face on is I'm going to tack it so it pulls everything together, and otherwise it's nice and firm on here. In some ways I don't even need to nail it because it's really nice and tight on there. So our last piece is exactly 6 inches, and that's going to make exactly a 6 inch by 6 inch box. I'm going to just make sure it fits before I glue it and nail it. Perfect. by 6 inch column box, we are now going to dress it up a little bit with some additional trim. And we'll go down there. I've already done one, so we'll go down there and take a look at what I came up with as a finished product, and then I'll show you in steps how I got there. Okay, so this is our finished column. I've already done this one. And what we did is we dressed it up with some 11 inch 1 by 10 on the bottom, and then some band molding, which matches the band molding on the house around here. And at the top, I did 5 inches on the top, and again the same band molding. So it's sort of the bottom is sort of heavier, and the top is lighter in terms of the column. So it's supposed to mimic a traditional Greek, Roman column. So that's it. So that's where we're going to do this in steps, and we'll go over to the table saw and we'll show you how we did that stuff. So the bottom part of our column is out of 1 by 10 AZAC. I've already cut it on the chop saw to 11 inches, and now the next thing is I'm going to 45 all these corners. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run it through the table saw at a 45 and just cut a 45, and then I'm going to move it over to my column and mark the other 45 and then cut that on the table saw. So I've already pre-cut all of my 1 by 10 AZAC blanks that I will then use for the bottom part of the column. Top of the column, which is going to be 5 inches, I'm going to use the remaining parts of the 1 by 8s, and I'm going to cut these down to 5 inches, and then I'll do the same thing, bevel them at a 45, bring them up to the column and mark the other 45, and then make a box out of this. Okay, then out of the 1 by 10, as I said before, we're going to cut a 45 on one side of that box, setting the table saw obviously to a 45-degree angle. Okay, so I've cut a 45 on one edge of my 1 by 10 board, and I'm going to line it up perfectly. The inside of that I'm going to line up perfectly with the edge of the column, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to mark my other 45 with a small pencil mark right there, and then I'm going to carry this over to the table saw, and I'm going to line the blade up with that pencil mark and cut another 45. And it should be, of course, roughly 6 inches, because we know that the face of this is 6 inches. Okay, so here's my pencil mark that I made against the column, and I'm going to slide this over until I line it up with the inside part of the blade. I'm going to lock the fence, and I'm going to do my cut. I have both 45s cut out of the 1 by 10. I'm going to line the inside of those 45s up with my column, and before I go any further, I'm just going to tack this in with one nail just to hold it in place. And I'm going to go back to the table saw. I'm going to cut my other 3 blocks and then bring them over, and then we'll have a perfect box. 11-inch piece of 1 by 10 on the column. I've tacked that in, and I've cut 3 more, and we're going to start building our box here. And now we have all 4 sides of the box. I'm going to make sure they all fit together. I may need to trim them a little bit. Otherwise, I will then glue with the glue all sides, and then nail it in place, and be ready for the top piece of trim. Now I've just finished the 4-sided box to trim out the 6x6 column. So now our overall size of this bottom part of the box is now 7.5 inches by 7.5 inches by 11 inches tall. Next step is to finish this off with a nice piece of trim. We'll go look at what that trim looks like. And I've glued all the corners, all the mitered corners that I did on the tabletop, so it's a nice strong box to finish off the bottom part of the column. Okay, so AZAC makes a lot of different trims. This is it's called a band molding, and I use this around all the windows in the house to finish off the flat casement, but in this case I'm going to use it here. It's nice because it has this nice flat bottom, and it's going to go like this, and we're going to miter all that as well, and I'm going to do that on the chop saw, but I'm going to do the same thing, which is I'm going to miter on the chop saw a 45 there. I'm going to bring it back over here, line it up, and then cut an opposing 45, and then we're going to build the same thing we did below. We're going to build our bottom box. All four of our mitered trim pieces cut. We're going to put them on, and if anything needs to get trimmed, we will hold it together, make sure it's all nice and even, all the corners are neat. And again, because this is AZAC, we're going to glue on both sides as we nail, and then just tack it in with a couple finish nails, and then we'll be done, and we'll show you what it looks like when we're over. Okay, so I've attached the trim pieces on top of the bottom part here, and that's pretty much finished, other than filling the nail holes and then of course sanding everything before we paint it. We're done with the bottom, and now we're going to move to the top, which is basically going to be the same thing but upside down and about half the size. So the top is going to be, instead of 11 inches, I decided to make it 5, so it's lighter looking on top and heavier on the bottom, and then the exact same trim, which is going to be facing down. So exact same concept, exact same application, except it is up there and not down there. So we'll do that next, and then we'll be done. Wiping the excess glue off of the finished material here. So now I have my top box, which is 5 inches, roughly half of what I did for the bottom. And now the last step here is to do the exact same band molding trim around here, the same 45-degree miter cuts all the way around, and I'm going to cut that quickly, apply it, and we will be done. So now you know one way to make a construction column a bit fancier. On the next Malcolm Made show, we'll be building a set of mahogany stairs for the same porch.